Well, hello there, and welcome back to the latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. Now, so much of what I teach people is all about how to have the best possible positive mental attitude that you can. If you want to find somebody, you've got to go into this really believing that you are going to have a happy, successful relationship at some point. So a part of this is all about the law of attraction, and everything that you think about, you're going to attract back into your life. I've talked about this before, but to help me today, I've got a very special guest. I've got the author of the best-selling book, How to Think Yourself Attractive, the lovely Aoife Roach. Welcome, Aoife.
Hey, James. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Now, we've spoken before off podcast, and I really like your story. And I've read most of your book. I haven't read the last few pages because I had a bit of a busy weekend, but I'm going to finish it tonight. But I think there's some really useful tips in there that we can give people. So can you tell everyone who you are and what made you write this book?
So my name is Aoife Roach, and I'm Irish. My background is I had a background in corporate, abandoned my corporate career in 2018 to pursue a career as a fitness model. Won a lot of things in a very short period of time, but as part of my journey on being a fitness model, I moved out. I stopped working altogether to totally focus on the fitness career. And during that time, I was like, well, I have a bit of time now. So when I was traveling, because I spent a lot of time traveling around Southeast Asia, I started writing a book. And I knew that there was lots of things, because I was reading lots of different books on all, like I've read The Secret, I'd read, The Science of Getting Rich, and lots of different books, but nothing that was really simplified. So I was like, how can I simplify it? How can I make it into an easy, digestible piece of, like, people who are just beginning on the start of their journey to understand that thoughts become things can digest. And that's what I did. So I wrote it while I was traveling. So I wrote a lot of it in Bali, that is in Thailand, and then I finished it when I came back to Dublin, and then got it published before I went to America. So yeah, it's taken a lot of inputs from different environments. So I think that's kind of reflected in the book as well.
That's going to really help though, isn't it? Because I think it's about the environment and going through life experience that allows you to write that book. Because you talk about how you've used these techniques in your own life, haven't you, to get everything you want, and the things that you've achieved, like your awards and things you've had from this fitness modeling. What were you struggling with before you found all this?
So I think the biggest struggle that I had was, so I would be, typical class A personality type, constant overachievement, very image conscious, wants the lifestyle, likes leading the lifestyle. And I think when you go down that path, you can kind of get tangled up in the material things and wanting the material things and wanting more and more. And I lived like that for a very long time. And I spent 10 years carving out a corporate career to get to the top, to realize that the more I was getting, the more empty I was actually becoming. So, and I think this goes back to what we talk about with relationships as well, like that, when you're pursuing something so, like, for the money, or pursuing the status, or you kind of get a bit disconnected from yourself and about what you want, and the type of relationships that you want. Everything becomes in the pursuit of looking for a little bit more. And that's what I found. The more success I was creating, the more empty I was becoming, the more isolated I was starting to feel. Because sometimes, it's not a judgment, but as a woman, if you're having a high powered career, sometimes can be a bit intimidating towards the opposite sex, depending on, the type of man that you meet. So I kind of got a little bit lost in the translation, where I had on the exterior everything that everyone would perceive you should have in order to be happy, but I never felt as empty as what I did, kind of right up the top of my corporate career. And I looked around at the women who were, and they weren't happy. They were getting divorced. Their relationships were falling apart. And I said, you know what? There has to be more than this. What am I passionate about? What would I love to do? And then that's when I said, right, I'm going to pack it all in and become a fitness model. I think LinkedIn thought I had lost my mind. I went from the boardroom to the bikini in about 6 months. It was quite a shift.
I think what you're saying is very true. There are lots of very successful women, high-powered women. They do somehow intimidate guys. And I hear this all the time with many of my clients, but I don't think that's really their fault. I think some men are just different minded, and you shouldn't let that put you off, because the right man would not be intimidated. But I see what you mean. Sometimes working so hard and doing something, and you take your focus on other things, and they do suffer by not having great relationships, which is why they come to me, because they're confused about what to do and how to find them. So that's great. So you were traveling around the world, you became a fitness model, and you won all these awards, and then you wrote the book. I wanted to say something to my listeners as well. Although it's called How to Think Yourself Attractive, it's not attractive as in how you look, is it?
Yeah. And that's it exactly. And there is often, I'm actually doing a second edition of it with Raymond Aaron, and we're going to rewrite it, do a new version of it. And there can be, because the fitness and everything, if you look at my brand, a lot of it is based upon aesthetics, about how I look, and everyone thinks it's about how I look, but the actual the thesis and the antithesis of the book is that your attractiveness is mental, it's not physical. Like, you can be the most beautiful person physically, but if mentally, if your thoughts and your thinking process around who you are and what you want aren't attractive, you will be ugly. Like, you'll ooze it. And I use the word ugly, I don't mean physically ugliness, I mean, your energy will be ugly, because everything for me is energetic. And I think when you can decouple from the physical attractiveness and look at this energetically, okay, so where are my thoughts? How am I thinking? Am I thinking positively? Am I thinking negatively? Am I putting my energy into wanting to create the best version of myself and focusing on what I want? Or am I putting my energy into all of the things that I perceive are going wrong and going against me? And the more that you can shift the focus to put your energy and attention onto the things that you want, the more attractive you will actually become. So I read The Secret, and look, the power of positive thinking is great, but it's not enough. Like, it has to be positive thinking followed by repetition, followed by obvious action, and then repeating that process over and over again, just by thinking and really believing it as well. Some people say fake it till you make it, and I'm like, don't fake it till you make it. Act like you belong. Make yourself believe, everyone around you believe, because you believe that you should be there. And I think then that's when you become really, really attractive. Like, if I to look at some of the just crazy scenarios that I've gotten into, and the people that I've met, and it's always been down to a product of my thinking, because I've literally believed that I can create it, and I thought about it. I always say that to people with the competitions. I imagined myself on that stage thousands of times, even when I was in like dingy gyms in Dublin and it was dark, and in my mind I was on the stage and I had a big audience and I had all of that. And so then it was only a matter of projecting that onto my reality. So and that's really when I'd say how to think yourself attractive, it's teaching you the tools and techniques about how to create that attractive mindset in order to create the attract what you want in your life.
In the book, you talk about visualization and how you've really got to believe you're going to get these things. And in this case, maybe for my listeners, it'd be finding a partner. And so you're going to say, maybe you're going to think about how life might be like with them. And you talk about fantasy though in there as well. And you say that it shouldn't be a fantasy, it should be a reality, and you've got to really, really believe in it. Can you give our listeners some more advice on that?
Yeah, so it's the manifesto. So you have to, like, for me especially, like, the more specific you can get around the type of individual that you actually want to be with, the more likely that you are to create that person in your life. Because when you're not specific, you will tend to attract, it's more of a vague type of personality. So like I think about the manifesto, so where I will write down the qualities that person has, like, maybe not what they look like, but energetically what type of person they are, what type of values they have, what type of integrity they have, what is the engagement and the interaction that we have together. So I'm all about playful, fun, adventure, all of those kind of things. And I literally visualize myself in that sort of dynamic so that I feel it, because the subconscious mind responds to things that are emotionalized. It doesn't just respond to repetition of language. So when you can emotionalize and embody and feel, okay, this is what it would feel like to be with that person, even if you don't have a physical identity for that person, but energetically, then you'll know very quickly when you meet someone to say, oh, that person really aligns with me energetically. I had an instance of it like earlier in the week with someone who I met on Clubhouse, who messaged me, and we had a chat, and I just energetically I was like this is, this will work. Like, I don't know how much longevity will be in it, but energetically, because I was very, very clear on what I wanted from him, when it showed up, I knew exactly what it was. And I think that the more that you can get clear and specific about that as a woman, and what type of person that you want and what type of person that you don't want, the more likely you are to create that in your reality.
I completely agree with you. I tell my clients to do that. If you don't think about this, you don't know what you really want. When you do meet that person, how are you going to recognize them? How do you know when you finally met them? And that's why they spend so much time swiping away on dating apps. They're not really sure what they're looking for. And dating profiles in particular don't sell people in that way. They don't really describe values and interests. They just talk about generic things. So if you want to try and attract somebody, do write things in your dating profile that are going to really resell who you are as a person. So someone reading it will be connected to you. What you were saying earlier about the mind, I think that the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between real and imagined events anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So by doing all this and you having little role plays in your head and really believing it, the mind can't tell the difference. And I think confidence is part of this. I think if you want to be more confident in life, maybe you're going out on a date or going for a job interview, if you believe that you are entitled to this, you're going to get this job or you're going to be successful, that's going to work. What advice would you give somebody when it comes to confidence?
Yeah, so it's like what I said earlier, rather than fake it till you make it, act like you belong. And the most attractive thing that you can have is, or that you can wear, is confidence. It's not like the most beautiful woman in the room isn't the best looking woman. It's the most confident woman, because when you can exude confidence in yourself and in your own identity and in who you are as a woman, the right men will be attracted to that. Men who are more still on their journey might be a bit intimidated by that, or think maybe you have an ego about it, but the right type of individual will be attracted to that sort of confidence in a woman. And when a woman can sit in her own integrity and be okay with not have a heavy dependency on the masculine, because she's already kind of anchored it. She has the balance of her own feminine mass. If he's there, amazing, I'll add to his life. But if he's not, I will be unaffected. I will keep going without him. And what I found, the more confident I have become by not having an attachment to the end result, the more I get pursued, which is quite an interesting dynamic. There's often, saying the word "we'll see" to a man. Someone comes, "Oh, yeah, we'll see," and they're like, "Sorry," it confuses them, and it's not me being, passive or anything. It's just I'm unattached. My confidence, my happiness, and what I do in my life isn't in a direct relationship or have a dependency on a man. And I think when men see that, they're much more attracted to that, because they know that woman can hold her own and take care of herself in the relationship. Because I have a friend of mine who always says this, and I like it. She goes, "After me, you come first." And I like that, you know what I mean? Because she says to her partner all the time, "After me, you come first." So she's always in, her own self-care and taking care of herself, not selfishly, to nourish herself and nourish her and her values. And I think that comes from the confidence that she has in herself as who she shows up as in the relationship. Because other than that, when you're not confident, we tend to compensate. And we'll compensate by compromising, we'll compensate by having sex early, like no judgments or anything, but we will make compromises that we think we have to kind of bargain with people. But when you're quiet and you're, standing in your own power, you'll compromise if you feel like compromising, but you won't if you won't. And I think that becomes very attractive to the masculine in my experience.
It definitely is. It's about not settling. It's about knowing your worth, knowing your value. And when that woman does choose you and decides to make you the partner, then that's a very good thing. You think, that's wonderful. I've actually earned the right to be with this person. And then you can become balanced and you have a happy life together. What sort of techniques do you use yourself on a sort of daily or weekly basis when it comes to the whole attraction, law of attraction style thing? Do you meditate? Do you do yoga? What do you do to get yourself in the right mindset for this?
Yeah, so I do a couple of things. Some things I'm much more disciplined than others, and then I can always see the direct relationship between them. So like the first thing is getting very, very clear on what it is that you actually want. So, I'll write down, like, if I have like financial goals, I have travel goals, I will have relationship goals. I make one choice about making my decisions based on intuition from my feminine energy. So write down those set of goals, and I'd spend time every morning. And sometimes I'm getting to the point now where I'll just kind of pick one every single day, and I'll sit. Some people call it strategic thinking, some people call it visualization, some people call it visioning. It doesn't matter, it's all the same. And I'll sit down in it, and I will literally ask myself, what do I need to do to make that happen? What's the obvious next step? And sometimes the obvious next step is not to take action. Yeah, sometimes it's just to do nothing. But I will always take the time to sit in. It's like a meditation. And because I'm a quite action orientated individual, I kind of struggle with the meditation side of it. I have to put a timer on my phone, not like to time the meditation, but to make sure I don't get out of it,
Me
because
too.
like after 5 minutes, I'll be like, is it over yet? Is it over yet? Wanting to get out. But when I'm disciplined enough to stay in that, there'll be these little nuggets of gold that surface, because it's, and like Einstein talks about it, like it's in Napoleon Hill book. It's in the silence where we find the real gold. But when we never give ourselves an opportunity to be silent, we never give ourselves an opportunity to be in listen mode, where we're actually listening for the clues and, what's actually going on here. Because it's often what we think is going on isn't actually what's going on. It's our perception of what we think is going on. And when you can kind of meditate on that and always orientated towards a goal, you know what I mean? It's always directed, though, because where attention, it's one of the chapters in the book, is that where attention goes, energy flows. But if you haven't outlined or drawn out where your attention is supposed to go on an intention, then your attention is just scattered and fragmented, and you get a little bit of this and a little bit of that, or things like that, and things won't work out. But when you can be totally focused on what it is that you want to create, knowing that it doesn't even matter how things look in your superficial environment currently, knowing that you have the power and the potential to be able to create that, then that's when you can project what you see in your mind onto your reality. And that's done, through that visualization.
You talk about journaling in your book as well. So that's the same process, isn't it? What you just discussed. You keep a journal and you write these things down.
There's a direct relationship between, the hand and the brain. So, I say, like you have a dream line, and then you have an action. Lots of people say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I'm like, have you written it down? Because once you write it down, it turns into an action item. It can't be unwritten. So there's like a sort of a commitment to that. And you're much more likely to succeed in once you write them down. Like I started writing down, I choose the end result of becoming an internationally recognized fitness model in 2017. There was the first time. I have journals at home with that. And I wrote it, I deviated off a couple of times where I moved away from that. And then I sort of forgot about it. I kind of thought, and then in December 2020, I didn't even know I was nominated. I got a call to say, you've just won International Athlete of the Year 2020. I was like, what? Really? But I had been writing that down, for like maybe 18 months to 2 years. And they I was winning competitions, but I was never kind of getting towards the goal. But the thing was, that was still, because I was writing it down, my subconscious mind was hearing it constantly through repetition. It was only a matter of time before it materialized. And sometimes I think and it's often in relationships, we can get impatient. Like, where is he? Why is he not showing up? Or, why am I not being able to attract him? But like, if you can let go of all that attachment and know that everything is working out the way that it's meant to, then and just keep focused on your goals, everything will show up and not to get too spiritual on it, but in divine order. Like if you don't have the relationship that you want, It's either, you need to do some inner work to get very, very clear on what it is that you want, or else it's just only a matter of time before you materialize what you want. Maybe it's just not the right time. So, well, that's what I believe anyway.
I believe it's making your own luck as well, because people tell me all the
Yes.
time that they're unlucky in love. They're not going to find somebody. They're never going to do it. All their friends are all paired off. What are they going to do? But I personally believe I'm a very lucky person. Not that I believe in luck, but I believe it's a mindset, because I tend to attract all the things that I need into my life at the right time. And I'm willing to just accept that. For example, the weekend, I needed some money for something. And then suddenly an old client came back after 2 years and paid for the session. Bang, there's the money in my account. Everything I've
Exactly.
got in my life is there. It doesn't mean, again, you said this in your book, that it doesn't mean that you're going to have bad days. We all do. And it helps you appreciate the good days, isn't it? But it's having a channel, just believing that you're a lucky person and that things are going to work out is all part of the mindset.
Because it's starting with first of all, you have the belief. And I definitely believe, like, I find the harder I work, the more luck I have.
Yeah.
But it's starting with the belief that it is actually possible. And then it's exactly like what you say, the kind of the taking of the action. Like lots of women, they say to me, "Oh, if I can't find anyone, I'm like, well, what are you doing? What action are you taking?" I'm like, "Are you on Tinder? Are you on eHarmony or whatever site?" And they're like, "Oh, no." You're like the best kept secret. How are you, if you really are actively looking for a relationship, you need to take action. He's not going to find you and come knocking on your door. It doesn't work like that. And it's exactly what you talked about there. Like, you've taken action to create that client relationship, and it was just a matter of rekindling it to get it again. And I think when you can match the vibration of the thought process about what you want with obvious action, then that's when you strike the gold.
You're absolutely right. So many people just expect things to happen magically. And that's not what this is all about. You've got to take the action, wherever it might be. And it's the first steps of it, just doing a little bits here and there. You write down in your journal what you need to do, and the actions do become obvious. It's not going to suddenly go, I'm going to have to go and do this massive step. You're taking the little steps along the way. What do I just need to do next? The very act of just downloading the app or joining a dating site is enough to tell the universe that you're ready for this and you're going to be taking part. Doing nothing, no one's going to knock on your door, like you said. And if they do, they're going to be wearing a mask. You're not going to recognize them. It's very strange
So
times.
true.
I do think part of it, though, is just being able to quieten the mind and getting yourself ready for this state. And I do struggle with that, quietening my mind, as I'm always thinking different thoughts and I don't sleep very well. Do you struggle with that yourself?
So my mind is incredibly busy.
That's what I
Um,
thought.
the fact, but and I never realized that before. I thought everyone thought the same as me, because we don't. But now I realize, like, I have to work extremely hard to focus my attention. Sometimes I think, I'm undiagnosed ADD because, no one talks about that when we were younger. That was a thing. But now, like, I look at it and I'm like, I probably have the attention span of about 15 minutes before I'm off thinking about something else. So I have to work really hard on that. But definitely, like, I sleep very, very easily, but like my lifestyle is set up that, like, I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I'll train for, half an hour, 90 minutes. Now I put in stretching, then I'll meditate, then I will, I'll read a little bit, nourish my mind, then I'll go to work, come home, I eat pretty clean. I don't really drink, like, very rarely drink. I don't smoke. I don't do any of those kind of fun things anymore. I've kind of given up all of that. But so, and I think that's probably one of the key factors that I found in creating success is making that habit and that routine. So when I get to 10 or 11 o'clock, my body knows I'm sleeping now. And I sleep for 6, 7 hours depending. But that's like just it's a routine. And I think if you can focus on creating those routines really solidly, it definitely will help to quieten the mind because you take away the decision making. And I think during lockdown, like, I know lots of people are in a mess because they don't have a structure and they're not going to work and they're working from home and all these different kind of variables. But like, my routine, even in lockdown, has never changed. And I think if you can create those solid routines and meditate in the morning, and if it works for you, do 10 minutes meditation at nighttime before you go to bed. It does definitely help to settle the mind, because sleep is probably, and I see this as a health and fitness trainer, the most neglected part of our whole physiology that has the biggest impact. So if you're not sleeping right and you're not taking care of your sleep debt, as I call it, the debt collector will come knocking, and he'll normally come knocking in the form of illness to get you to pay attention. So you'll get a couple of warning shots, that let's say with your bank balance, if you keep getting overdrawn, there's a day when, something's going to go fundamentally wrong within your finances. And it's the exact same way with your sleep. So, I encourage people, if you're not sleeping right during the week for whatever you're stressed with the kids or whatever, try to take that time at the weekend, even to gather 1 hour, 2 hours, and just to get that into so that you don't end up in a massive deficit at the end of the month and owing the sleep debt collector, like a lot of hours, because you pay for that in the long run for sure.
They're coming after me, this sleep debt collector. I tell you, I've never slept my entire life properly, and having kids does not help either.
Yeah.
But I'm quite pleased at the moment we're recording this, it's half term. So I've got to have an extra hour in bed in the morning, which has been absolute bliss. But then my mind's thinking, I've got to get up, got to do something. People need me. I need to respond to people. But that's all fine. I do take your advice on board there, which is, as always, absolutely fantastic. Any final tips for anybody as we come towards the end of this amazing podcast on how to apply these techniques, how to really trust if you're doubting that they might work? How can you start to believe that this is going to work out for you?
So, and I think it's twofold, right? To create success in anything, first of all, you absolutely have to believe you can do it, right? Like that's the foundation. You have to have the willingness and the belief that you can do it. And once you have the willingness and the belief that you can do it, then you start to, look at what are the obvious action steps. So once you have the willingness and the belief you've obvious, you can do it. Let's say, for example, pick up the book. The book will give you the obvious action steps about what are the next things to do. But the other part of it, and this, to lend itself, it doesn't matter what area. Like I do sales training, I do personal training. You work in the dating. Get yourself a coach, because you can go and do it on your own and learn all of the lessons the hard way and waste time, or else you can invest a little bit of money and save yourself an enormous amount of time, because you always either spend time or money, one or the other. So that would be my tips for people, is make the commitment to do it, find some resources that are going to help you, and then align yourself with an individual who is an expert in that area so that they can help you accelerate fast. And then that's how you'll get the result. So a result that might have taken you 3 years to get you on your own may take you 12 months when you enroll a coach. And I think that's sometimes the part that people skip. They get all the resources, they make the commitment, and then they're not accountable to anyone, and it doesn't work. And then, they waste years, and none of us have time to waste. You only get one shot at this. Like this is not the dress rehearsal. You know what I mean? This is it. The adults aren't coming. So we really need, you need to give it your best shot. So armor up with all of the resources and the people around you that you can to make it a success, whether that's in a business, in your personal life, in your relationship, whatever it is. And if you need help, go out and look for it. Go ask people to help you. And I think that will make you so much more, create the success for you so much quicker.
That's such great advice. Go out there, find someone who knows what they're doing, and you can really fast track the entire process. Thank you, Aoife. That's absolutely amazing. If somebody wants to buy your book, I presume it's on Amazon, but can you tell everyone how to find it and how they can get hold of you directly if they want some advice about anything else?
Yeah, so it is on Amazon. So if you just, even if you Google how to think yourself attractive, it will come up, or you can search that on the Amazon list. If anyone wants to connect with me directly, you can just go to www.aoife, that's AOIFE, or OCHE.com, and it'll redirect you, and that will give you another link. But feel free to drop me a DM, connect. I'm always happy to connect. And on Instagram, you'll find me. It's Aoife_J Roach. You'll find me there as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I have learned so much, and hopefully my listeners have too. It's been a real pleasure. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespriest.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.